Welcome back to another edition of Voices of the Valley here courtside at the Missouri Valley Conference Basketball Tournament. Excited to be with you this morning as well. We're going to have some great guests for you as my plugs have come apart here. Hold on one second. Live radio. I guess this isn't radio. Glad you're with us, though, on Voices of the Valley. We're going to be connecting with a number of great guests this morning. We were hoping to have Art Haynes, but he's too big for us. That's the way it is. He's right there. I'm giving him a hard time. And, yeah, come on around. We're going to have Art Haynes join us. He is the Hall of Fame broadcaster with the Missouri State Bears. They play in the first game here this morning. Have a seat, Art. He was walking by here, and we had an opportunity to grab him and bring him right in. See where you're at there, Art? I got to still move this way at you a little bit. Okay. Hey, so nice win last night for the Bears.
Well, if you're going to be in the play-in round, at least maybe win and stay another day, and that was the case. Coach Paul Lusk told us before the game that Alizé Johnson was going to have to be huge for the Bears to win, and he had 22 points and 19 rebounds, so he was pretty huge.
He was huge and very determined, and he got a big lift, of course. Rhodes and Dixon. Rhodes in the first half, Dixon in the second half, and then Rhodes with the free throws at the end. Those two guys seem to be playing better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, Jared Rhodes is kind of an underrated player. I mean, he's a really good shooter. I feel like he's going to make it every time on a catch and shoot, and a good free throw shooter, like you said. Ryan Krecklow is a kid that, and this happens, people don't always just improve on a steady arc. Sometimes there's some peaks and valleys, and he came here as a shooter.
Right.
And he's now made 112 three-pointers in his career, but he lost confidence in his shot about midway through the season and didn't even try to shoot. So he has made himself into a defensive specialist, having not been asked to play defense before he came to college. Right. So my color broadcaster, Mike Keltner, said last night, well, Krecklow is a defensive player who can shoot free throws. And I said, now, think about what you just said. He's a defensive player, but he is. That's right. And so he and Rhodes, the right guys at the free throw line to nail it down at the end, and they did.
They really played well. Tell our watchers here on ValleyHoopsInsider.com, tell them how long for you at Missouri State. Listen, Snell and Reese have both been talking about that you lie and that you say you're not as old as them are, or you haven't been there as long as they have been.
Well, and the reason why, they've been, I think, 39 years each consecutively at their schools. I've been a total of 37 at mine, but I cheated and left for 4 years and went to Dallas and came back. So I'm kind of like Grover Cleveland. I've had two different terms of office, non-consecutive, but 37 for me at Missouri State.
So with the win last night, the Bears now have 18 wins, one more than last year, but obviously not a season that the people in Springfield are excited about because of expectations at the beginning of the year. Your team picked to win the conference, and you finish 6th, 7th, wherever it is, and then with the seeding, they end up 9th. But is it fair to say people in Springfield aren't bullish about the Bears team right now?
That would be kind to say that. It's been a tough struggle, really. It's been 19 years since the Bears have been in the NCAA tournament, and they went pretty regularly before that, and that builds a level of expectation, and this was supposed to be the year. After, last year, as you said, 17 wins, but picked to win the league. Alizé Johnson, really a once-in-a-generation type player, at least from a rebounding standpoint. And it started off well. I mean, the Bears were 13-3 and 5-2 in the conference, and everything was good. And then they lost 9 of their last 11. So there is a lot of disgruntlement in the Ozarks, and people are, I think, expected more, and so did the coaching staff.
Is it too simplistic to say that Reggie Curry was missed a lot more than people thought he would be? I mean, I think you said 2-9 or whatever. I think they were 2-8 without him before last night's game.
Correct. I mean, the season really changed with that incident. The Bears had just lost at Drake in a heartbreaker, but didn't feel that badly about the loss at the time. It's on the road. It was for first place at the time in the conference. But then on that Monday, they had the cryotherapy incident in the training room, and the players boarded a plane for Peoria about 2 hours afterward. And I didn't know anything about the cryotherapy, but I knew from the looks on their faces as they got on the plane that something bad had happened. And they were, first of all, they were a half hour late, and then I started looking around, counting people, and soon found out what had happened. And two things. I mean, both the shattering effect that had on the whole team, but then the practical effect, like you mentioned, of Reggie Scurry not being available. Because really, I mean, you got Alizé, you got Jared Rhodes, and you had Reggie Scurry, really were the three best players on the team. And to take him away with his mid-range shooting ability and his defensive ability, that the team defense got a lot worse after he left, that really has had a negative effect.
Because, yeah, when I thought, well, I'll go back and look at and see what took place. And, yeah, I mean, they just have been a totally different team without him. And I was aware that he was a good player. I wasn't aware that he was that central to what they were doing.
Well, I mean, he missed the last 11 games and still made the all-bench team in the conference this year. So he made an impression in the first time through on the people that voted. And I think he was an important reason. I mean, not because he was an incoming player, but he had the credentials why Missouri State was the preseason favorite. They had players coming back, but they had Reggie Scurry that was going to be a key contributor, and he was until he was injured.
Think about today's game. Let's break that one down a little bit. Two very tight games with Southern Illinois, both of them coin flip games, and could have made a shot here or there and won them both. You know, I've talked to Paul about it and watched the overtime game on television. What do you expect from the game today?
Well, I mean, like you say, the loss at Carbondale by 1 point in overtime after the Bears were ahead by 4 in the overtime. The game in Springfield, we were behind the whole game, but caught up, and then Southern ran a play and got a good shot in the lane with 6 seconds to go and won it. Bears didn't get a good shot before the buzzer and fell short by 2. So normally you think, all right, well, 2 games have been, like you say, a coin flip. The third one, the law of averages, the other team's going to win.
There you go.
But what we have seen in this conference through the years, the play-in winners will maybe come out on Friday with a lot of energy. They've got momentum from the night before, and for the other team, they maybe have a little rust, and it's really close for a half. And then it wears on you as the game goes on, having played the night before, and now you're playing 2 games in 2 days, and that's how it's supposed to work, the punitive effect of finishing in the bottom 4.
Sure.
So it's really hard to fight through, and of course, we've had this format since 1997. So that's 21 years of play-in, 2 winners a year, so 42 times. And the play-in teams are 1-41 on Friday in the quarterfinals. So I'm saying there's a chance. And and I think maybe in this matchup there's a little more of a chance than otherwise you would think.
Yeah, I think often you're thinking this is a 2 seed, let's call it a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about an 8 or 9 seed. Well, this is a 2 seed, and this is a pretty awful good 9 seed.
Yeah, I mean, Barry has done a tremendous job at Southern Illinois, but I mean, they're not, Doug McDermott Creighton or some of the Illinois State last year. Actually, they were the 1 seed, but so really, really powerful 2 seed. There's not that much difference, I don't think, from about 2 to 10 in the conference. There's one team that separated, and they deservedly won the league. So I think there may be some surprises today, hopefully in the Missouri State game, but possibly in some others.
Yeah, I wrote a story recently for a different website, not my own, and they said, well, tell us who the teams that can win that aren't Loyola. And second on my list was Missouri State. Because I thought I know the numbers. One team in all those years, the Bradley Braves in '98, I think it was.
Yep.
But I thought they would win last night, and then I thought, well, they've had these tight games, and if they really come to play like they came to play last night, I think they're a better team.
And as recently as a week ago, and I don't frequent gambling sites, but some people that I know do, and I was forwarded a link to a website, and they had the odds on winning the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament, and Loyola was at about 38%, and Missouri State was second at 14%, and then Southern Illinois was third. So that was indicative of people that get paid to know, still thinking highly of Missouri State. Now, at that time, it was thought the Bears would avoid the play-in.
Sure.
So having to win the 4 games in 4 days is really tough. But nationally, last year, 4 teams did it. It's never been done in this conference,
Right.
but it has been done, so it's possible, but it's a gargantuan task to do.
Yeah, the people that look at our website, we watched the Missouri Valley and the Ohio Valley Conference, and just 2 years ago, Austin Peay did that. They ran the gamut all the way from the play-in game into the title game and won the title game. And so, yeah, it can be done. Tell our folks a little bit more about you and your responsibilities there at Missouri State.
Well, right now, my day job is as the licensing director. So everything that has our logo on it or our licensed word
So you can
marks.
hook me up with free stuff.
Not necessarily, but I can direct you to where you can purchase
Where I can
those
buy
items.
it, right.
We're just trying to get more broad distribution in the retail market of our presence, and we work with Learfield Licensing, as many of the league schools do, on that. So that's my day job, but I've got a 2-hour sports talk show in the afternoon, obviously do the football, basketball, and baseball for the Bears.
You got nothing going on.
And I work on
With
the
the
Kansas City Chiefs radio network 20 days a year in the late summer and throughout the fall. So, yeah, I've got a few things to juggle, time management, logistics. If I retire, want to do something else, I can maybe go work for a trucking line in logistics because I have to figure out how to get someplace in the most efficient manner.
If there's one of the three sports that you were just talking about, which one's your favorite to broadcast?
Really, it's,
People ask you that all the
it's
time,
whatever's
don't
in
they?
season. Football really, I think, flows the best. You call the play, your color analyst analyzes the play,
Right.
and now it's time for the next play.
Sure.
The problem sometimes there is recognition, if really good ball handling and faking, and you can get faked out, and the distance, too. You have to use binoculars. Basketball moves so quickly, but it's really exciting, and it's the sport probably for which we've been best known through the years. But now baseball is, without any question,
You guys
our
are
best
really
sport.
good, right?
That's our best sport at the university, and 2 of the last 3 years have won the regional and gone to the super regional, and those have been some of my best memories. I mean, last year, Jeremy Ironman hits a walk-off home run to beat Oklahoma State in the regional, and we play Arkansas, and they make us play in a deluge till 3:30 in the morning, and they win, and come back the next day and beat them on their home field to go on to TCU the next round. So it really is whatever is in season. I always, fortunately, have another season to look forward to, and then I look forward to the summer where I get to kind of relax before we do it again.
Before we let you go, yesterday I was talking to Mike Reese, and we're going to have Dave Snell on here in a few minutes and Dick Lutke on a little bit later. The guys in this league, the broadcasters, I'm of the opinion, are just spectacular, number one. But they're good guys. I mean, they're good guys to hang around with.
They really are. And I mean, Reese and Snell are 2 of my favorites. And of course, Mike Kennedy now and the Shockers have moved on to another life. But it really is. We kind of have a fraternity amongst ourselves, and always looking forward to seeing those other guys 2-3 times a year when we meet.
Yeah, a lot of fun, great broadcasters. When I can do it, I'll be somewhere and I think, oh, they're playing, and I'm really, all the games are on TV now.
Yeah.
So the radio guys are kind of like, you're wondering, but. Whenever I can, like I'm plugging in and listening, and I know, and I'm glad you guys are doing your games locally in St. Louis too. I listen to you guys on the radio a lot.
Well, thank you, and that's something that's important to us as a university. We have our second largest alumni base in St. Louis, and we always have. That's gone back many, many years. About double the number that we have from Kansas City, and there are reasons for that. I mean, they have KU, they have Central Missouri, they have Northwest over in that part of the state. We've kind of tended to be, along with Mizzou, and maybe to an extent SEMO, a school that's popular in the St. Louis area. So we always make it a priority to have a local radio presence, both in St. Louis and Kansas City.
Yeah, and we love it being here on St. Louis. It's 1380 a.m. You can hear the games, and I don't know exactly where you're going to be this weekend because you're trading off with some of the local radio, but 1380 and I think maybe 1260, one of those 2 places, you'll be able to hear Bears basketball this weekend. And
hopefully hear more than one more game. We'll see.
That's exactly right. Final question. I know we were talking about people not being thrilled maybe about how the season's going, and so sometimes that we start to wonder, is the coach safe? So I don't want to ask you that question. I want to ask you, though, what it's like to work with Paul Lusk. What's he like play-by-play guy to coach?
He's a great guy. I mean, a lot of coaches don't get it as far as the media and what the media's role is, and he really gets it. He's very accommodating about taping pregame shows or just logistical things that may and should kind of go over the heads of the normal people. But he's great to work with. He answers questions. He's very thoughtful. Really a good guy. One of my favorite coaches to work with that we've had.
Awesome. That's Art Ains. Appreciate your time.
You bet, Harry.
We'll be back in just a minute. You're watching Voices of the Valley right here on ValleyHoopsInsider.com. Have to play on Friday. And Larry, first of all, it's got to be fun for you guys. You and I were just joking before we came on here together. It's been a long time since you guys haven't played the Thursday night game.
2008, we won the title. Since that time, we have always started on Thursday, which of course is not exactly a recipe for success. So it was really nice this year to get out of that. And now we're the number 4 seed. We actually tied for 3rd in the conference, but we'll play Bradley tomorrow. But it's sweet having a Thursday. We can just kind of go to the luncheon and then do what we want to do and not have to play a game at night.
You and I talked mid-season about just the renaissance going on under Nico Medved, his energy, his optimism, and the play of the seniors really leading the way. And I think people in your area have to be excited about what Nico is building with the Bulldogs.
Oh, they certainly are. This was not expected. This is a team that in the past 3 years had won 9, 7, and 7 games. And there was no reason to think with a new coach coming in that it was going to change very much. But it really started, Harry, right at the beginning when Drake went down. It was supposed to be in the Virgin Islands, but there really are no Virgin Islands. So they went to Virginia. We went to the Paradise Jam, and we beat Wake Forest. And even though they're not a top-tier ACC team, they're still a Power 5 conference team. And we're able to pull that game out. And I know talking to Reed Timmer, who was our first-team all-conference performer, on the post-game show, he said, we knew we were going to win that game. That's something that's been lacking with this program. When you've been losing, when it's a close game, you always, I think subconsciously in your mind is like, well, what's going to happen now? But this team won that game. So I think that really got things started. And, yeah, fans are excited about what's happening this year under Nico.
So they, as you mentioned, they tie for 3rd. They get the 4th seed. Let's talk a little bit about that Bradley game. What do you expect? You saw them twice. What do you expect in that game?
Well, the first game we played them was the first game of the conference schedule. We beat them 66-64. We just held them off. It was back and forth. Remembering that, of course, these 2 schools are the only 2 schools left from the beginning.
Right.
This is, I think, the 151st meeting. These 2 schools have played more than any other school, so there's a great rivalry there. First game was very close. And the second game, which I also think was a turning point game, was when we went to Bradley and beat them by 10. They had just beaten Loyola there, I believe. And with us, we were in a 3-game losing streak. And then we had Loyola at Chicago coming up next. If we lose that game at Bradley, go to Loyola and lose it, now you're in a 5-game losing streak. And I would imagine in your mind, here we go again. We got off to a decent start. But, last year we finished by losing the last 10. So you don't want to do that. So I think that victory at Bradley was huge. But the one thing we did in that game, we went to a zone. And it really stifled the Braves and won that game by 10. So I'm excited about playing them again. Of course, our mutual friend, Dave Snell, on the call, we joked about this. We said, would it be nice if we're playing again in the Valley tournament, but this time not on Thursday? So, there's a thing about beating a team 3 times, but I'd still rather be the team that won the first 2 than lost the first 2.
You guys have had so many seniors this year, and that's a little bit different for some programs. And so you have all the seniors, but of course Reed Timmer is the guy that everybody knows about, everybody's heard about, scholar athlete, first-team all-conference, all-time leading scorer. Tell us something about Reed Timmer maybe we don't know.
Well, let's see. He's a pharmacy major and he wants to be a doctor. I know he wants to try to play overseas. He'd like to at least try a little bit of basketball, and it has to work it out with school. I don't know. I'm trying to think of any secrets that I can really diverge of. I don't know any except for one thing. He is a leader on this team. He went through a slump about mid-season, and part of it was because he didn't feel well. He had bad ribs. He had been hit by an elbow in the first Illinois State game, and we really didn't talk much about that, so I guess this would be that. They were bothering him, but he was still playing. But you could tell he wasn't the same Reed Timmer. But if you look at the last 6 games, he's had 20 points per game. I think just about every game he's averaging 28, so he's obviously healed. But he'll never complain about being injured. He's a warhorse. I mean, he's a guy he's 6'1", looks like the All-American boy, but he's as tough as nails.
He loves to take it to the rim. He loves to drive in amongst the big guys. He is a tough competitor. If you're just joining, this is Larry Kotler. He's the voice of the Drake Bulldogs here on Voices of the Valley. Larry, a long time there with the Bulldogs, and a long time around the Valley, but you have St. Louis roots. But just talk about, this is the first year, no Wichita State, first year of Valpo, just your evaluation of the league overall.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I loved having Creighton and Wichita in the league because it brought prestige to the league. But I would say this, talking to all the coaches, everybody has come in with the thought of why not us? With Wichita gone, because Wichita was the dominant team. Now, granted, Illinois State last year, of course, were co-champions with them, but pretty much you expect Wichita at the top of the league. Nobody knew what to expect coming into the league this year. We didn't know which team was going to service at the top. You know, Missouri State was the preseason favorite. They finished 7th. Loyola's been the team that's moved up. But every coach I talked to said the same thing. Why not us? This gives us a golden opportunity. And I think that the way all the coaches and the players approach this tournament, the same way. Why not? Why not the Bulldogs? Why not? I'm sure Bradley's probably feeling exactly the same way. Why can't we break through? So it's brought more balance. And I think the interesting thing, it was mentioned at the luncheon, Harry, that the Valley is the 8th best league RPI-wise in the country. Well, that's moved up without Wichita there. So I think it's just brought about greater top to bottom. I'll tell you, there are no easy games in this league. We were picked 10th. We were picked 10th again, and I understand why we were picked 10th. No reason for us not to be picked 10th. We've obviously shown we're better than that, but there's no easy games in this league, and you'll see that in the tournament this weekend.
Before we let you go, I know you're a big advocate of telling people about taking care of prostate cancer. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's true, and I'm glad you brought that up. I had prostate cancer surgery on October 27th, right before the start of the basketball season. Now, there's 2
games.
I had to miss 3.
Oh.
I had to miss the opening game against Coe College, which really wasn't that big a miss, and then there were a couple games, road games. My body was too tired and didn't want to go on. But here's the thing: I didn't have a checkup for 5 years. I didn't realize it was that long, but my wife had pestered me and said, "You need to get in for a checkup." As I found out, everything about me was good except for one thing. I had a high PSA count, supposed to be somewhere in the 1 to 2 range. Mine's 40. So we went back in and they took some tests and did a biopsy and found out that I had 3 cancerous cells. So they just went in and had surgery, and actually it went well, and I feel good. Everybody asked me how I feel, and I feel great. And I would just encourage everybody, and I really try to get this message out. I'm going to try to become more of a spokesperson and advocate. I actually focus it more toward the women, because the reason is, well, no, yeah, because we guys, we always think of ourselves as tough. We don't need a checkup. We're good. And it's the wives that get us in for a checkup. If I had waited another year, for example, if Deb hadn't pestered me and I hadn't gotten it for another year, who knows? So that's why it's just very important to get yourself checked. And again, tell your wives to bug you. They do it out of love.
I'm glad you did it, by the way. We can't lose this guy. Final thoughts. So if it's not, you can't pick Drake and you can't pick Loyola, who's going to win this tournament?
Oh, boy. That's a good question. Because if we didn't pick Drake, I would pick Loyola to win this tournament. Illinois State's good. Trying to think. Southern Illinois obviously is good. We split with them and had 2 really hard-fought games. Probably comes down to one of those 2, I would think.
There you have it. Put your money on, well, don't put your money on any of those. Larry, appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
That's Larry Kotler. He's the voice of the Drake Bulldogs. We'll be back with more of Voices of the Valley in just a minute. Well, welcome back to Voices of the Valley right here on ValleyHoopsInsider.com. I'm Harry Schroeder. You know the guy right next to me. This is John Rooney, the voice of the Cardinals, one of the voices of the Cardinals. I know you're sensitive about making sure that people think Mike is the voice of the Cardinals.
Absolutely.
But here we are at Missouri, the Missouri Valley Conference basketball tournament, and also John's doing a bunch of games for us this weekend, entertaining the people on television. John, first of all, you and I have talked many times about this league. What makes this league special? You've been at all the big places and all the big tournaments. But what makes this particular tournament and this league special?
I think the way the league is run, Harry, I think from Doug Elgin, Jack Watkins, Mike Kern, everybody involved at the Missouri Valley, the way they run this tournament, it is run as well as any NCAA regional I've ever worked or attended. And it's a pleasure to work with those folks, and it goes right on through the member institutions, working with the athletic directors, the coaches, the players. And from the college basketball side, that's what I can speak of because I don't do the baseball or work with football or the other sports. But I really enjoy the shoot-arounds and the practice, I think, as much as I enjoy the games, if not more, because we get a chance to interact with everybody.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk to these coaches as well, I feel like they're actually even a little bit different than some of the guys maybe in the Power 5 conferences, maybe just because they're so wound, so tight because there's so many demands on their lives. But these guys are way more, accessible or maybe just down to earth.
Well, they have plenty to do to prepare for games. And one of the things Matt Loddick said when he came into the league with Valpo is that compared to the Verizon League, the Missouri Valley, the coaches are all so well prepared. Everybody knows what everybody's going to do. It comes down to a matter of execution. And I really like going to those shoot-arounds, Harry, because after you talk to Greg Lansing or after you talk to Dan Muller or Ben Jacobson or any of them, they're all glad that you're there. They appreciate what the program gets in the benefit from the TV package, from the media coverage that they have. That's sincere. They don't do it because they have to. They do it, I think, because they enjoy that relationship, and we're there to help promote the conference, promote the kids, show America what Missouri Valley basketball is all about. And I look at the way Jay Randolph did the Big Eight all those years with Gary Thompson.
Yeah.
He did a solid job of promoting the Big Eight Conference. He didn't promote Jay Randolph or Gary Thompson, but everybody knew who they were because we loved the job they did. And that's what I hope to do with the Missouri Valley, working with Mark Adams and then Rich Zavosik and Kevin Lehman and anybody I've had a chance to work with. Adam Emenecker does a good job up at Drake. We're very blessed to have some great people to work with, and I find it a lot of fun. That's why I do it.
It's a lot of fun to be involved in this league, and those people you were talking about, the coaches. I was sitting here yesterday preparing to do one of these shows, and Loyola was practicing, and Porter Moser comes walking over to me and says, "Hey, Harry, good to see you. Just want to thank you for the way you promote our league." I'm like, who does that?
Well,
you know what I mean?
It means something, Harry, to Porter Moser to be in the Missouri Valley Conference. Mm-hmm. After all, he played in the Valley when he was at Creighton under Tony Baroni.
Yeah.
I saw him as a kid working in his father's lumberyard in Naperville, Illinois.
This guy's got a story about everybody.
When Porter was working his way through high school and getting ready to go to college at Creighton, and then my first stint with the Valley, he was playing for Tony Baroni. And so I'm fortunate to have that history, and really this is a small fraternity. Yeah. When you think about how Porter ended up in St. Louis under Rick Majerus, and before that he coached at Illinois State, and then got the chance to pick up the program at Loyola, and look at where they are now, and who knows where they're going to go from here.
He likes to say he wants to keep the arrow pointed up, and their arrow is pointed up.
It really is. And he thanked the conference for the foresight to bring them into the league when Creighton left 5-6 years ago. And I hope we can say the same about Valpo, because they do bring a pretty good style of play under Coach Loddick into the Missouri Valley Conference, and we'll see where their program goes from here and what they do for the Valley Conference in the future.
Let's talk a little hoops now. Let's actually talk about the games that we're going to be seeing today. I think this is 4 great matchups today. I mean, I think Missouri State and Southern have had great battles all year long, and Northern's got their hands full trying to go up against the Ramblers. But then Indiana State and Illinois State are a great, sweet matchup as well. Drake and Bradley have played each other like 18,000 times. I think we have 4 great games in front of us.
Well, you look at the league, and Loyola seems to be a tick above the rest of the league. But there isn't a great team in the league as it appears right now, and I think there will be when some of these kids grow up in the league. But there isn't a bad team either. That's what I think we've really enjoyed about the conference race through the year, and I enjoy what Nico Medved's done up at Drake and the enthusiasm he brings. He runs more sets than anybody, but he has a very intelligent team. I think they're going to be dangerous. Bradley, under Brian Wardle, has done a pretty good job of building year by year and gaining experience. They play some defense. Their big problem is playing a whole 40 minutes. If they can be very dangerous, just as I thought Valpo could, and Valpo came close to Missouri State. One of the best Thursday games I've seen really since I came back to work the Missouri Valley Conference. So what we have in the league is an Illinois State team that if it plays solid for 40 minutes, they can get the automatic bid, and they might be able to go a few rounds and make things very uncomfortable for some people in March in the NCAA, but so can Loyola. Loyola's sitting there right now. They're the number 1 seed. They earned it, and I'm going to be interested to see how Porter and his guys defend that.
Don't you love one of the things I love about college basketball, high school basketball, is watching the players develop and grow as people and as players. But like last night, you were talking about the Valpo game with Missouri State. They're done. They're down. They're 15, 16 points down, and it's over. And Tavon Walker instead said, "Wait a minute. I'm going to carry my team forward." He gets 22 in the second half, and you watch this guy just will his team back into contention. And those are the kinds of things that we get to sit by and watch and talk about when these guys you can see it. You can see them start to change the way that things are going to happen.
And Harry, we've seen that on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, a Thursday, a Saturday, a Sunday throughout the regular season in the Valley. That game last night was no stranger to Valpo. Valparaiso has been behind so many times, but came back to make it uncomfortable. In fact, Valpo was down by a considerable amount against Bradley team at home at Valparaiso and came back to win by 17. They were down double digits, and then the second half wore Bradley down, and that's where Bradley has a question of playing a whole game. But if they do the way they can defend and the way they usually do for the first half of a game, they can be very dangerous. But we get to see this day in, day out in the Valley, and we don't get the publicity in this league that they do through the Power 5 conferences. But I'll tell you, I have to say this for Mike Kern. Mike Kern is as good as any media relations guy there is in the game. Mm-hmm. He does the work of a whole staff in those Power 5 conferences, and we are so lucky to have that kind of information.
Totally fortunate. I think the big question for that Bradley game is how much Darryl Brown plays, or if he plays at all.
Right. Darryl Brown is such a compliment to everything they do, and to watch Thomas and to watch the others. Cannell has been a good force from the outside, but he's very important, though, to the way they defend and the way they really hound the opponent to set the tempo of a game. So we'll see how that works out.
All right, now my viewers on ValleyHoopsInsider.com, they'd be mad at me if I didn't at least ask you a Cardinal question. Ozuna and the team. Talk about the Cardinals. What do you – I mean, you haven't poured over at the Cardinals, yet, and so many things will still happen. Different players are still going to get signed different places, but give us a little Cardinal breakdown.
Well, I'm still looking at a lot of the young players, and we're seeing plenty of them in the early going. We've seen Garcia, who can run like the wind, not Greg Garcia, but Adolis Garcia. He can defend in the outfield. He can play all three spots, hit for some power. Picked up a player from the A's and Munoz that they're giving a very good look to. Hit 2 home runs in 1 inning at a game against Baltimore.
2 days ago, yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of the young guys. Haven't seen Matt Carpenter yet, though. And I'm concerned, but he's not. And if he's not, I don't guess I should be. But I'd like to see him in the lineup because he means so much. When he's on his game offensively, then he's going to make everybody around him better, like Ozuna will. Mm-hmm. And if Carpenter could hit in between Ozuna and DeYoung, or split up a couple of right-handed bats in the lineup, I think it's going to make that lineup stronger, even though Ozuna's presence has made the lineup much better than it was, certainly at this point or any time during the season last year. And we have a lot of questions with the pitching. Adam Wainwright had his first start. He was able to work around some walks, didn't give up any runs. We saw a couple of appearances from Flaherty already, and he gave up a grand slam to Machado. But I want to see these guys develop, see how they repeat throwing strikes and going out there attacking the strike zone. And a lot of water under the bridge before we get to New York and open up against the Mets the last Thursday in March. But I think the Cardinals are better than they were. They have some very good young arms. I think they're going to be terrific at all levels of the minor leagues, and that bodes well for help the Cardinals will need later, either this year or in the future.
What games are you doing today?
Doing the late games, doing the 2:30 and the 8:30.
Oh, so I got you, yeah. So he's John Rooney. You can watch him today on Fox Sports Midwest, right? I've got that the right place. 2:30 and 8:30, and of course, come on down to this tournament. This is such a great basketball tournament. You're going to enjoy every game that happens today. John, appreciate your time.
Harry, always a pleasure to be with you.
All righty, that's John Rooney. You're watching it on ValleyHoopsInsider.com. I'm going to have you get up, and I'm going to have Tom Ackerman jump right in. We're just going to do it.
Hey.
Tom Ackerman.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
What's going on, man?
Hey, you get to do the sideline stuff for all these Valley tournaments, but you've been out doing the play-by-play throughout the league, and you've been doing that for a couple of years. What is that like for you? Because I know you're a grinder, meaning you're an early morning grinder at KMOX and all that. What's it like to be able to get out and actually pound out the games throughout the season?
I absolutely love it. There's nothing better. And, look, My KMOX crew is amazing. I love doing the morning show. They mean everything to me, and I've been at that station for 20 years. But to me, in this business, there's nothing better when that ball goes up in the air and it's your responsibility. On radio, you have the responsibility of describing the action to the listeners who are completely blind. But on TV, you have a responsibility to not only the viewers, but that entire crew that puts on the production. I mean, we have a TV truck full of hardworking people that are handling everything from graphics to, you almost had a ball hit your... I have a story. I have a story about... That's something on TV you have to watch for, too. You have an entire crew, a truck, production, cameras, people helping you out at the table, and it's on you to do a great job. And I love that. I love that. So, and it's a great league. My good buddy Mitch Holtis calls this America's Renaissance Conference. This is college basketball the way it was meant to be, the way you put together programs and do things the right way. And I just love being part of that. I've been a basketball guy my whole life. I played it as a little kid all the way through. I still try to play it once in a while. Sometimes my muscles and joints don't agree with me as well as they used to, but I love the game, and I've been around the game my whole life, been around coaches my whole life, and that's my final point, is that I just really enjoy basketball coaches, that they're very media savvy, they're great to talk to. I love spending time with them and picking their brain, and that's also an important part of it for me.
As you've traveled the league, give us an arena that you really like, being in the Missouri Valley.
I like Loyola's place. I always said that. I love Gentile Arena in Chicago. Didn't get to go there this year, actually, but spent the last few years watching Porter build that program, and that place is really great. And I was excited to see that it was packed and jump in on their senior day. Some other places that are really enjoyable for me, Cedar Falls. I love doing a game in Northern Iowa. They are great fans. I like Illinois State when it gets cranked up.
I was at the NIT game there last year that they lost, and packed. People going crazy.
Perfect. It's a really cool layout. Mm-hmm. Indiana State is special to me because that's the first game that I did for the Valley back in, I don't know when that was, 2006, 2005, something like that. And the first game I did with Charlie Spoonhour was in that building. I went to IU, so I used to go over there and watch Indiana State play. That place is very meaningful to me. And then I've spent a lot of time at the Ford Center in Evansville, and I think that is a gem of a location and building, and one of the best in the league. And then I can't, of course, leave out JQH, which, I do a lot of games for Missouri State. Right. And so, they have such great basketball history, men and women, in that town. That place is cool. I think that has great potential also.
So he named about half, maybe 6 of the 10. So the other 4, and what he actually did was say your facilities weren't very good.
The others you have no. I mean, the others are really good. I mean, I could go through them all.
Sure,
I mean, Drake for being as intimate as it is, and just straight through the league. Valpo I thought was cool from that perspective. Who did I leave out?
Don't worry about it. It's
but
good.
But it's. It's great. It's a great league. I have fun with it, and I think that's the most important thing, is that you have fun with what you're doing. Let me mention a couple others. Okay, SIU Arena.
It's political, no question.
Because my mom went there, and SIU Arena has got to be, to me, the loudest of the places. When Wichita State was in the league, of course, it was great. But SIU Arena, when Bruce had it going, when Painter had it going, that place absolutely rocked. So, I mean, that's another one that I think is really great. And then, of course, Carver Arena.
And let's not forget, we used to go to Omaha and used to go to Wichita. We don't want anybody to be mad.
No, we don't. So, and Carver, okay, so Carver, just going through it, because arenas to me are like fan bases. Mm-hmm. They go hand in hand. Carver's fan base has like that great, I've done luncheons there where you see so many dedicated fans that have links to the past success, and they are so basketball savvy. So I don't want to put one fan base above the other, but there's something about the Bradley fans that I think it's key for the Valley to have Bradley be really good. And when they do, boy, they're awesome. They really are.
I remember I did a game. I used to do some radio games for the Valley. We used to do like a game of the week kind of thing, and the first time I went to Carver, I'm liking it. The games are going good. And all of a sudden, they're going to step up and shoot a free throw, and the place went deadly silent. I was like, wow, they're paying attention.
Yeah, they're really smart. And my good buddy Anthony Parker played there. And so we played grade school together. We played in 5th and 6th grade. He went to the NBA and I didn't. But, I got to watch him play at Bradley, and I know he loved playing at Carver. Loved it. I used to sneak over to Terre Haute and watch him play. That's why I went to Indiana State, to go see him play over there.
Let's talk a little bit about the hoops itself, for today. I think it's a great day of basketball, the 4 games. Great matchups today. What are you most interested in seeing today?
I love this first game. I want to see how Loyola handles being a number 1 seed. And Northern Iowa, a team that's won this tournament 5 times, kind of giving them a challenge early on. I'd like to see how they bounce back from playing. That's a tough thing, playing the night before and then coming back and playing a noon game against this team of all teams. But they're really good. And then the other one that I have my eye on, of course, is the showdown at 6 o'clock. I mean, you've got Barry Hinson going up against the team that fired him.
Right.
You have Missouri State with a coach that the heat is clearly on him, and who knows what his future is, fighting for his coaching life. So it's really fascinating. And the best player, with all respect to Clayton Custer, the Larry Bird Player of the Year, the best overall player in the Valley is Alizé Johnson. He showed it off last night. He was ridiculous last night. So what does he bring to the table at 6 o'clock, which will probably be the peak of fans and noise tonight? He knows that, and he's going to put on a nice show. I mean, it's going to be really cool.
He said yesterday in the postgame after they won, he said he and the other seniors told the rest of the guys, we don't want to quit tonight. This is not going to be our last game. We expect you to play like that. And he said, our guys said, okay, we don't want it to be our last game either. And he was leading them before, and then, on the floor, magnificent.
That's what you want to see. So he does it all. I mean, he sells popcorn. He, probably could do the post-game interviews. And he also is a leader. But he's a special player. I mean, you're talking about a guy who we know he can rebound. He's a rebounding machine. But then he steps out and shoots threes, and then I watched as he started to gain even more confidence. He's doing like over-the-shoulder passes, and I mean, he's putting on a show. He's great to watch, emotional out there. What a great player. We're going to miss him in this league. I would say I agree with Doug Elgin that in 30 years of watching this league, I'm not sure that I've seen a player like him with his unique skill set.
He's a great player. Alizé Johnson, 6 o'clock tonight. And you can see Tom doing the sidelines during that game. That's why they really tune in. Talk about your role as the sideline guy, though, before Dick Lutke's going to jump in here in a minute. But that sideline...
As he well should. He's an excellent brother.
Terrific. That sideline job. Now you're giving updates throughout the game and all that, but talk about that kind of like halftime thing when you got to talk to the coach that's winning or losing. Talk about that.
I love it. I love talking to the coach. It's funny when I talk to the coaches and I finish the interview and I walk back to my seat. Always somebody says, "How was he? Was he okay? Is he grumpy?" No, all these coaches are so good. They really get it. It's not anything more than paying attention. So if you pay attention to the game and you know what to ask, they appreciate that. Also, don't put them in some sort of a corner where they have to answer in 2 words. Put them in a situation where they can explain what's going on. I mean, if you say, your team's playing great, stick it in, yes, we are, Tom, or no, we're not, Tom. I mean, give them something specific that they can really talk about and put them in a good position to do that, and they appreciate that. All the coaches, like I said, are very media savvy. But my job is, in a very short amount of time, I have less than a minute, I need to get 2 questions in pretty much to have them explain their thinking right now and what they're about to tell their team. Or, coming out of the locker room, what did they just tell their team without asking them that specifically? So you're just trying to take people behind the curtain in that moment of time where we're able to talk to the coach immediately after he steps off the floor or emerges from the locker room. And that's a cool thing. So that's my responsibility. And then anything else that I do, if they have a moment to do it, is just to tell a little side story. So, last night I told a few things about Valparaiso, their history, for viewers who might not know. That's a team that's got a lot of great basketball history, and they're a great get for the league. Or, today I plan to tell a little story about a couple of players, why they're a good fit for that program, or maybe something you don't know about them.
Final question. Porter Moser is such a fun guy to talk to. You're talking about coaches that get it. And, he gets the Coach of the Year. But I think, I'm about to sneeze. I've never done that before. I think he's a guy
there it is.
that that does understand this whole business of promoting not just his team but the league, and he's just such an energetic guy.
He is. He's, Barry Hinson's the other one who just understands this league. Porter Moser, I talked to an SID of an opposing team who told me that he spent some time behind the scenes and was talking to after the game with people on that other team and just showing the appreciation for the effort that they put in. And he was telling his story about how he built the program, and they were all just like, emotional for him.
Yeah.
And this is the other team talking. Everybody just understands and appreciates hard work, and he has put in the work to build this team to what it is. He's a great guy. He totally gets it. And then Barry Hinson is another one who I've got that long relationship with. He actually, I'm sitting there watching the shoot around yesterday, and he goes, "Tom, come out here." And I walked out on the floor, and he told me a couple things about his team, and then he said, "Okay, how's our pitching?" He wants to know about the Cardinals. Yeah, as his team is going through their stretching before practice, how's our pitching? You want to know about the Cardinals. But they're great guys, both of them, and I wish them all the success in the world.
This is one of the media days in October a couple years ago. I don't even remember the issue, but I walk up to Barry and I kind of ask him, I don't have a microphone, we're just talking, and he says, "Hey, when we do the interviews, I'm kind of ticked off about this. Would you ask me about it?" I'm like, "Sure." So the firestorm ensues, you know.
Or there was the one time that I asked him a question and he answered it, and then he goes, "I'll say this, you win the tie war, buddy. I get beat." And I was wearing this like paisley tie. And from that point on, he always points out my tie, what I'm wearing. I got to be on my tie game. He'll come out with some, with some line today at halftime.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Tom Ackerman, KMOX Sports, Fox Sports Midwest. Dick Ludke is going to come join us. Come on over. And he does the sidelines, and you're going to enjoy his work today on Fox Sports Midwest. And as the Valley tournament rolls on, Dick Ludke is going to join us for our final little segment. No time to get up even off the chair, play the commercial. We're doing it. Welcome. Whoa, knocked my earpiece out. That's all right. Dick, you guys, as I'm thinking, I want to go straight to basketball. I think if you guys are getting healthy at the right time, and you watch them every day, and maybe you're frustrated with them and you're happy with them, but I think the Redbirds, other than this Loyola team that's right out in front of us, I think they're the team to beat.
Possibly. This league is so balanced this year, and the Redbirds have been so up and down, and part of that has been injuries. Players have missed a lot of games. Some key players have. And as you said, they are now as healthy as they've been really all season. I think Phil Fain is still kind of integrating himself back into the system. So I couldn't disagree with what you say, but it's so close. And Indiana State was a tough matchup for the Redbirds. They did manage to beat them in overtime at Redbird Arena, but they got waxed in Terre Haute, 30-point game, and Birds just played poorly, but that had something to do with the Sycamores. So anything can happen.
I asked Dan the other day, I said, "So has this been a hard team for you to figure out?" And he goes, "Oh, no." And then he explained for about 5 minutes about how hard it was to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, they're 18 or 19 to 23-year-old kids, and you can't get inside their heads. Sometimes they're ready to play, sometimes they're not. This is a young team, no seniors on this team, not a lot of previous experience at this level. And so it's been a challenge for Dan, but I think he's done very, very well, especially considering the fact that the team is so young and inexperienced, and the fact that he's had players out for so many of the games.
That's Dick Ludke. You're watching Voices of the Valley here on ValleyHoopsInsider.com. He's the play-by-play voice of the Illinois State Redbirds. You sell State Farm insurance on the side, right?
I used to. I'm retired from State
Come
Farm.
on, there you go.
And I didn't actually sell the insurance. I was one of their spokespersons.
Okay.
Put on the other hat, I was dealing with people from the media.
Yeah.
Now I'm back to being a media person myself full time.
How long for you doing the Redbird games?
I started in 1981. I missed 5 years when I did go to State Farm full time, and then they allowed me at State Farm to come back and do it on a part-time basis. And so 81 to the present with 5 years off. This is my 32nd year of doing Redbird basketball.
We had Art Haynes on earlier. He had a little gap in his extension as well. I came up to your guys' place for the Warren 74 this year, and Redbirds played well, won the game. Is that still a rivalry? Is it a rivalry for the players and the coaches, or is it really only a rivalry for the fans?
Well, I think it's much more important to the fans than the players and the coaches. The players and the coaches will tell you, I know Dan has said this, that it counts the same in the standings as any of the other games in the Missouri Valley. But he knows that it means a lot. Yeah, he knows it as a player, he knows it as a coach, that it means so much to his fan base. And so for that reason, it's more important to him. But that's the only reason it's more important to him. And the other thing about the Bradley Redbird rivalry is that it really isn't what it used to be, because one team or the other has been down, and sometimes both teams have been down in recent years. There was a time when those were two of the 3 or 4 marquee teams in the league, and each Bradley-Illinois State game had tremendous influence on who was going to win the conference, and that's when it was really a hot rivalry. It's still a very good rivalry, but it's not at the level it once was.
When I first started coming to the Valley tournament and getting kind of immersed into the Valley, it's 98. Redbirds are winning. Muller's a star on the team. Bradley is the one team that's ever advanced past Saturday, past the second round. Back then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right. Monday.
Yes.
They were the only team. They were a really good team, and they had some good runs in there. And you're right, when those two teams are good, I think it makes the whole league better as well, because they travel here to St. Louis so well as well.
Exactly. Bradley and Illinois State in those days brought more fans than any other school. They still have a solid fan base and will both be represented very well here, but not like they used to be.
This place used to be very red and white back in the. You would come and it would be red and white, and then the maroon, because it would be Southern Illinois and Missouri State. It'd be all this maroon and red. And back then, Wichita State wasn't very good, and Northern Iowa wasn't very good, and so it was those 4 teams that were really bringing all the people.
Red and white and maroon. No diversity of color here.
We got plenty
now. Now we do.
We got browns and everything else. If you cannot pick the Redbirds and you cannot pick Loyola, who's going to win this tournament?
Ooh. I kind of like Bradley, actually. I think
he didn't say that very loud. You notice that?
They had a disappointing finish with that home court loss to Indiana State, but I just
I like them too.
The game at Bradley. The Redbird game at Bradley, boy, they're so good defensively. I think they've got a decent shot, but it's so even. I really think that I would not be shocked if anybody who's left came away with the championship.
When I think about Illinois State, Bradley, Loyola, Southern Illinois, you've got those 4 schools in Illinois, and for all intents and purposes, Valpo's in Illinois. I mean, they're just right up there. There's great geographic symmetry that I think really helps the league now.
The league has become a little more centralized, because Wichita State and Creighton geographically were outliers to some degree. And then Valparaiso and Loyola, the new teams who have replaced them, and it certainly has reduced travel expenses for schools like Illinois State and Bradley.
Tell me one player on your team today. Okay, they have to do X if the Redbirds are going to win.
Phil Fain. He did not have a good game at Loyola. The Redbirds played very well. They didn't play a great game, but they really competed in that game and did a lot of things very well. But Phil did not have a very good game. They need Fain. His absences have been. Have shown, I think, even more how much the Birds are dependent upon him. Malik Yarbrough is a spectacular player, but Phil Fain is kind of the glue to this team, and without him, it's a different deal. So hopefully he's back to his full self. I think if that's the case, the Birds are going to be a much bigger threat to win this thing than otherwise.
Appreciate your time. Have a good time today. Wait, before I let you go, is this, I mean, you love your family. I mean, the things, the values that are very important. Mm-hmm. But outside of those things, is sitting right here describing what goes on right there, is that not just awesome?
It's what I've wanted to do, Harry, since I was about 9 years old, is to be a radio play-by-play and I decided then that I wanted to do it at the college level somewhere. I had no idea where. I grew up in Minneapolis, so Illinois State was not in my universe at that time. But that's what I wanted, and the fact that I have been able to do that for so many years is, I consider it a huge, huge blessing.
And I know you're a huge part of that community. People love to listen to you do your games, and Dan has bragged to me about what an important part of the program you are too. It's a synergistic kind of experience, isn't it? I don't know if that's a word.
They haven't heard anything else, basically, for over 30 years, so they don't know any better. So they've totally accepted me, which is fantastic.
That's Dick Lutke. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Harry.
Appreciate it. He's the best. We've got nothing but great basketball announcers in this league. That'll do it for Voices of the Valley. Tomorrow we'll be right back at it an hour and a half before the first tip, and we'll have more great guests for you tomorrow. We're going to wrap it up right now. Don't forget, since you've been there, make it a better place. You've been watching Voices of the Valley on ValleyHoopsInsider.com.